And so today's video is going to be about the Cherry Blossom Festival, which actually starts today, March 20th, and it's also the first day of spring. And the festival this year goes until about April 14th. Now there are a couple things with the actual festival. There's the parade that goes on toward the end of the festival, and then there's also other small activities in and around the Tidal Basin. There's concerts, there's fun activities to do, there's paddle boating out on the Tidal Basin and everything. Very, very, very beautiful start time to the spring season here in DC, and just want to give you a video on what goes on and everything. So this year is the 101st Cherry Blossom Festival that is happening here in DC, and there are a couple of things that you probably want to just make a note of when you actually go and see the cherry blossoms. Right now they're not actually in peak, obviously. It's still very cool outside. We've had a very actually cold, legit winter, this year, opposed to the past few years where it's been 80 degrees now and everything's green outside. But there are a couple of things that you probably want to note down. So there's a thing called a blooming period and the peak bloom date, and they kind of vary a little bit. So the blooming period is pretty much defined as when 20% of the blossoms are open until the petals fall and the leaves turn green. So the blooming period starts several days before the actual peak bloom date, and then it can last as long as 14 days. However, if you have a really frosty morning, or if you have very high temperatures, then it obviously can shorten the actual blooming period because the petals will actually fall and the leaves will be visible. And so the actual blooming period doesn't last as long if you have a very cold spell or if you have very high temperatures. And that actually did happen last year and the year before and everything. This year, not so much. It's going to be more of a gradual trend in temperatures, or at least that's what the forecast says. Now the peak bloom date is defined as when 70% of the Yoshino cherry blossoms that surround the tidal basin, those are the predominant actual cherry trees right around the basin and everything, the more lighter pinks. When 70% of those blossoms are open, that's when we define it as the peak bloom date. Now, on average, the peak bloom date occurs on April 4th. This year, it's going to be pretty much on time. It's expected to be anytime between April 3rd and April 6th, so pretty much right on average. Now, the festival itself goes, again, until April 14th. Again, that's because you give the actual blooming period about another week or so after the peak bloom date happens, again, but if you have frost or you have very high temperatures, it can shorten that and everything. So that's pretty much the two definitions that you probably might want to just jot down and everything if you're just curious on what defines the actual when is it actually gonna be the most visible and the more vibrant colors and everything, what's the best time to go. And the best time to go is probably about 3 days before and after the actual peak bloom date. So between the 3rd and 6th, that's when the actual peak is supposed to happen. So anywhere from the 1st of April, probably all the way till probably the 7th or 8th of April. This year will probably be the best time to actually see all the cherry blossoms in full bloom. Now, there are a couple different cherry trees down around the tidal basin. Again, the Yoshino cherry tree is the predominant variety that encircles the entire tidal basin. And what it does is it kind of it spills onto the north side of the Washington Monument grounds and everything. So you have the tidal basin, and I kind of wish I had a picture, but I don't. But if you know the tidal basin, or if you have a picture, just it's around the tidal basin, and then where the Washington Monument is and stuff, there are cherry trees that kind of go up kind of alongside, not really alongside the mall, but more toward the grounds leading up to the Washington Monument. Now, that's one type of tree. And those trees actually are more of the pink, more the lighter pinks and everything. So very, very beautiful. Now the I don't know how to really pronounce these. I'm sorry if I'm butchering everything. But the Kwanzan cherry tree, it's named after a mountain in Japan actually. It grows actually in the East Potomac Park, coming into bloom about 2 weeks later than the Yoshino cherry trees. So you have the Yoshino cherry trees blooming, and then you have the like the Kwanzan cherry tree a little bit after the Yoshino trees. They kind of have a bit more of a clear pink to them, not as like heavy pink as the Yoshino trees are. They're just kind of more bright pink blossoms, but they're very, very beautiful. And again, those are more on the East Potomac River, opposed to around the tidal basin. Now, there's also the weeping cherry tree, the weeping Japanese cherry tree, and it's sometimes called the Hingon or the Haigon cherry tree, and that's kind of like an intercepted among the Yoshimo, the Akabuno, and the Kwanzan trees, and so they kind of like come in like a variety of different colors, and they can go from just like a single to double like flower strain to like a triple or quadruple with just different like blossoms around like an actual like bud and everything. And those can go from anywhere from dark pink to white in color. So the weeping cherry blossom tree has more of the variety of color than all the other ones actually do. And those are kind of just intermixed with the other trees in and around the tidal basin, so they're just like light pockets of them. They're not really big clusters, and they don't really like stand out. But obviously, with the ones that you see that are more like the dark purple, or the ones that are very, very white and everything, those would be the more of the weeping Japanese cherry trees and everything. So those are the types of cherry trees and everything. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of information on the types of cherry trees and the different colors. And by the way, there's about like 3,000 cherry trees actually down in DC. And again, it's a gift from the Japanese. And this celebration, this festival has been going on for, again, this year, the 101 celebration of the Cherry Blossom Festival. So very cool. If you've never gone to the Cherry Blossom Festival, I would highly recommend it. I try to go down every single year. This year I'm definitely going to go down because I just love it. It's very beautiful. Go on like a nice sunny day, and even if it's cloudy, when it's in the peak bloom period and it's cloudy outside, like honestly the trees, you're just surrounded by trees and it's just like so bright and nice outside. So it's a very beautiful time, and there's lots of things down there to do as well. So go and enjoy yourself, and until next time, remember to keep your eye to the sky. Bye.